and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. It's a great line in the Bible, a line that we should perhaps adopt as our own. What is your servant that you should look upon a dead dog such as I? I guess maybe I should unpack that for you a bit. This week we're looking at the curious tale of Mephibosheth. It's a small story scattered throughout the story of the reign of King David, but it is an important story too. What we've seen so far is that Mephibosheth was King Saul's grandson, the son of Jonathan, who was David's dear friend. Normally, when a new king took over, all the descendants of previous kings were put to death, and when Mephibosheth's nursemaid fled to keep him safe, she dropped him, and he was crippled for life. In the book of 2 Samuel, there's a bit of an interlude in the story at that point as David solidifies his kingdom and puts royal officials in place to help him rule the nation. Then, when you come to chapter 9 and everything is finally in place, it's time to get on with the business of ruling, and the first thing that King David does is to ask a question. And it's a question of surprising grace. Is there still anyone left of the house of Saul to whom I may show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Remember that the normal question would be, is there still anyone left of the house of Saul I need to destroy? But no. David seeks to honor his friendship with Jonathan and show kindness and mercy. The Bible describes David as a man after God's own heart. And when you see something like this, it's no wonder. One of Saul's servants, named Ziba, happened to be nearby, and he told the king about Mephibosheth. David sent for him and brought him to the palace. David said to him, "Do not be afraid, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land of your grandfather Saul, and you yourself shall eat at my table always." It's a stunning announcement. Mephibosheth had probably assumed he was going to his death at the palace, and instead he is given new life. He's given mercy. He's given grace. And he doesn't really know how to respond. He's humbled and awed by the gift. And that's when he responds, "What is your servant that you should look upon a dead dog such as I?" In other words, I am not worthy of your grace. And maybe that's why we should adopt Mephibosheth's statement as our own. For this is the same kindness and mercy and grace we have received from God. We deserve only death and destruction, but we get love and grace. How can God be so generous to dead dogs like us? How can God's love be so great? But David isn't through with his generosity. He calls back to Ziba, the servant, and tells him that he and his household and any servants he has will spend the rest of their lives tending to the lands that now belong to Mephibosheth and bring him the profits from their work. But even more, Mephibosheth himself will eat at the king's table like one of the king's sons. So not only is Mephibosheth given new life, he's provided and cared for beyond that, just like God does for us. Now, this would be a great place for Mephibosheth to disappear from the pages of the Bible, but his story goes on with more to say and more to teach us. Tomorrow, the Absalom deceit. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.